You ever feel like you're constantly shrinking just to fit in? Like you're editing yourself every damn day so people will accept you? Here's the truth. You weren't born to be liked, you were born to be real. And rule no. One, in this game of life, there's something sacred about being real. Not the curated version of you that the world gets to see through filtered selfies, rehearsed captions, or the version you shrink into just to avoid conflict. I'm talking about the real you. The messy, complicated, brave, scared, passionate, loud, quiet, evolving, contradicting human beneath it all. That person gets buried when we start chasing approval. From a young age, we're trained to seek validation. Gold stars, likes, compliments, claps. Approval becomes the drug. The more we get, the more we crave. And the withdrawal, it's real. The moment people stop applauding, we start doubting. The moment they criticize, we start crumbling. We start tweaking ourselves, our voice, our vibe, our values to fit in boxes we were never meant to sit inside. All for what? A few moments of acceptance that don't even last? We trade authenticity for approval like it's a fair deal, but it's not. Approval is temporary. It's based on perception, on trends, on mood swings. One minute they love you, the next they don't. But your authenticity, that's your essence, that's your truth. And when you bury that to make other people comfortable, you start to feel empty even if the world is cheering. The people pleaser in you wants to be liked, respected, understood. That's human. But there's a difference between being considerate and being a damn chameleon. If every room you walk into requires you to adjust your colors, you'll forget what you really look like. You start laughing at jokes you don't find funny, saying yes when your soul's screaming no, and staying silent when you should be screaming. Approval is addicting because it feeds the ego. But authenticity, that feeds the soul. There's a certain peace that comes when you stop performing, when you stop pretending, when you start showing up as you, no matter who's watching. It's not always easy. Being real comes with risks. Some people will walk away when they can't control you anymore. Some will say you've changed. Some will label you too much, too loud, too different, too real. Let them, because their discomfort is not your responsibility. Every time you choose authenticity, you're choosing alignment with your heart, with your truth, with your damn purpose. And it's in that space where you're not pandering to the crowd, not asking for permission, not apologizing for existing, that you'll feel something deep and powerful, freedom. When you stop giving people edited versions of yourself, the right ones stick around and the wrong ones leave. That's the filter you never knew you needed. The irony. The more you show up as your unfiltered self, the more you attract what's actually meant for you. People, opportunities, peace. You stop bending to fit into rooms you've outgrown and start building your own spaces where you can breathe. Authenticity scares people because it forces them to look at themselves. It reminds them of all the masks they're still wearing. But that's not your burden to carry. Your only job is to be real, to be true, to be you. The right ones will get it. The rest were never meant to. And here's the part no one says out loud sometimes. Being real means being alone for a while. It means walking away from the crowd, standing in silence, and holding your own hand. That's when the growth happens. That's when the layers peel back. That's when the real you shows up. The version that doesn't need applause to breathe. You don't owe anyone a watered down version of yourself. You don't owe them a version that fits their comfort zone. You don't owe them quiet when your truth is loud. What you owe to yourself, above all, is the right to live unfiltered, the right to take up space, the right to be misunderstood and still keep going, the right to feel, speak, break, rebuild, and evolve without asking for permission. Because once you choose authenticity, truly choose it, you stop living for the crowd. You stop begging for approval from people who don't even know how to approve of themselves. And when that shift happens, when you stand 10 toes down in your truth, you'll realize approval is optional. But being real, that's survival going to criticize you. That's just how it is. You could be silent and they'll say you're too passive, speak up, and they'll say you're too loud, do too little. They'll call you lazy, do too much. They'll say you're trying too hard. It doesn't matter which lane you pick. There's always gonna be someone pointing a finger, raising an eyebrow, whispering behind your back like they know your whole story. And that's the thing, they don't. Most of the people who criticize you aren't close enough to understand the context. They don't know what you're carrying. They didn't see the nights you couldn't sleep. They didn't feel the weight you dragged just to make it through. They didn't witness the moments you chose growth over comfort, or how hard it was to get back up after life knocked you down. All they see is the snapshot, the surface, and they judge from there. Criticism is inevitable because people view life through their own lens, their fears, their insecurities, their experiences. When you shine too bright, it reflects on the parts of themselves they've been hiding. So instead of facing that discomfort, they try to dim you. And sometimes they don't even realize they're doing it. It's automatic. It's easier to criticize someone else than to confront your own lack of courage. You could be doing something incredible, something brave, and still people will find something wrong with it. That's not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of their limitations. Because real ones, the ones who fought battles and led for their dreams, they don't throw cheap shots. They recognize the hustle. They clap. Even if you're not in their circle, it's the ones too afraid to move who talk the loudest. It's the ones who never dare to leap who criticize the ones flying. The truth is, if you're trying to do anything meaningful, if you're chasing purpose, if you're stepping out of line, if you're breaking generational cycles, if you're even thinking different, you will be criticized. It comes with the territory. It's part of the cost. It's the toll you pay for living unapologetically. What matters isn't whether you get criticized What matters is how you respond. Do you shrink? Do you let their words crawl under your skin and live rant free in your head? Or do you remember who the hell you are? You don't have to absorb everything that's thrown at you. Some things are just projections. Some words don't deserve a reaction. Some opinions aren't qualified to sit at your table. You've got to learn the difference between feedback and noise. One helps you grow, the other tries to stunt it. And yeah, sometimes criticism cuts deep, not because it's true, but because it hits a wound you haven't healed yet. That's where the real work starts. It's not always about proving them wrong. Sometimes it's about proving to yourself that you're still worthy, still strong, still on the right path, even when they don't see it. Especially when they don't see it. You've got to get to a place where your self-worth isn't built on compliments and destroyed by criticism, because both are fleeting. One moment they'll cheer, the next they'll jeer. That's why your foundation has to be internal, solid, built on truth, built on the fact that you know what you're doing and why you're doing it. That even when the world is loud with opinions, your voice inside is louder with clarity. Some of the most brilliant people in history were ridiculed, mocked, doubted, until they weren't, until their truth became too loud to ignore. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You just need to believe in yourself enough to keep going. Let the critics talk. Let them misunderstand. Let them project. Their words are just wind unless you give them weight. So expect the criticism. Let it come. And let it pass, because it will. And when it does, you'll still be here, unmoved, unbothered, and undeniably real. That's power. People think they know you because they've seen pieces of you. A post, a phase, a reaction, a rumor. But those are just snapshots, moments out of context scenes in a movie they haven't watched from the beginning. They see how you move now, but they don't know what it took for you to get here. They don't know the nights you cried into your pillow or the mornings you forced yourself out of bed when everything in you wanted to disappear. They don't know how many times you doubted yourself, how many times you fell, or how close you were to giving up. It's easy for people to judge when they're only watching from the outside. They assume, they label, they think they've figured you out because of the way you carry yourself now. They don't know that the strength they see in you was built from breaking. That the confidence they criticize didn't come naturally, it came from surviving. You had to become this version of yourself, piece by piece, scar by scar. People love to speak on things they don't understand. They see you smiling and assume you've always been happy. They see your success and assume it was handed to you. They see your peace and assume it was easy to find. But they weren't there when you were in the dark, when no one clapped for you, when you had to talk yourself into believing you could make it, when you felt like a burden just for existing. They weren't there when you were silent in a room full of people, feeling invisible and misunderstood. They don't know about the losses that broke you but also shaped you. They don't know who you had to lose, what you had to walk away from, or the habits you had to unlearn just to feel worthy again. They don't know how many masks you had to wear before you even figured out who you really were underneath them all. And they definitely don't know the battles you still fight in silence. The ones that don't show up on your face or in your voice but live in your heart like constant echoes. It's wild how people will try to define you based on a single moment or mistake while ignoring everything else that makes you whole. One misstep and suddenly you're boxed in by a version of you that no longer exists. People rarely give you the grace to grow. They want to freeze you in time, usually at your lowest, and then judge you forever from that place. But you've evolved. You're not who you were last year, last month, or even yesterday, and you're allowed to change. You're allowed to outgrow your past without explaining it to everyone who's still stuck there. You don't owe anyone your full story. You don't have to unpack your trauma just to be understood. Some people will never get it, and that's okay. Your journey is yours. The pain, the healing, the lessons, the work you've done behind closed doors, the choices you've made that no one clapped for. That's your truth. That's your power. You've walked through fire they didn't even see. You've carried weights they couldn't lift. And still you kept going. That alone makes you worthy of respect, even if they don't give it to you. Let them misunderstand you. Let them talk. Let them fill in the blanks with their assumptions. That says more about them than it ever will about you. Because the real ones, they won't need an explanation. They'll feel the energy. They'll recognize the depth in your silence, the truth in your eyes, and the fight in your spirit. They'll know you're more than the version the world tries to paint. So protect your story. You don't have to shout it from the rooftops to prove it's real. Just live it. Let your actions speak louder than their opinions. Let your healing be louder than their doubt. Let your peace speak for the chaos you overcame. Because at the end of the day, only you know the journey. Only you know the cost. And only you get to decide what parts of your story or storia are sacred enough to keep just for yourself. There's a kind of pain that hits different. It's not the heartbreak someone else gives you, not the betrayal from a friend, not the judgment from the world. It's the pain you feel when you betray yourself. When you silence your truth to keep the peace, when you say yes with a fake smile while your soul is screaming no, when you stay in places that drain you because leaving would make other people uncomfortable. That's the betrayal that cuts the deepest because you did it to you. We don't talk enough about how often we abandon ourselves, how often we play small to fit someone else's vision, how often we twist and mold ourselves to match expectations that don't even belong to us. We call it being reasonable, being flexible, being mature. But sometimes it's just self-abandonment with a prettier name. You can lie to the world, wear the mask, play the role, But you can't lie to yourself for long. That voice inside, it always knows. It knows when you're off track. It knows when you're ignoring your gut. It knows when you're living for someone else's approval instead of your own alignment. And over time, the weight of that betrayal builds up. It starts as quiet discomfort. Then it grows into restlessness. Then it becomes resentment. And eventually you look in the mirror and barely recognize the person staring back. The hardest part isn't even what you gave up for other people. It's realizing that you gave up on yourself, your dreams, your standards, your boundaries, all for people who probably wouldn't do the same for you. And deep down, you knew better. That's what hurts the most. You knew your worth, but you lowered it. You knew what you needed, but you ignored it. You knew who you were, but you acted like you forgot. And maybe you did it because you were scared. Scared of being alone. Scared of being misunderstood. Scared of disappointing the people you care about. Maybe you thought choosing yourself meant you were selfish. Maybe you thought you didn't deserve more. But here's the truth. Choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. It's sanity. It's your responsibility because no one else is gonna do it for you. People will take from you as long as you let them. They'll keep pulling pieces of you until there's nothing left but a hollow version of who you used to be. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. You don't have to say yes just to be loved. You don't have to betray your values just to belong. Real love, real connection, real peace, they don't require you to betray yourself in the process. They don't demand a watered down, edited, half-alive version of you. They ask for your wholeness, your honesty, your realness. And the wildest part, when you finally stop betraying yourself, everything changes. Your energy shifts, your relationships shift, your life starts to align. You stop attracting chaos because you're no longer tolerating it. You stop settling because you finally realize you don't have to. And yeah, you might lose some people along the way. That's part of it. But you'll find yourself, and that's the trade worth making every single time. You owe it to yourself to stop pretending, to stop performing, to stop dimming your light just because it makes someone else squint. You owe it to yourself to speak your truth even if your voice shakes. To walk away from what's breaking you even if your knees feel weak. To choose yourself even if it makes people uncomfortable. Because at the end of the day you have to live with you. Your choices, your reflection, your regrets or your freedom. And if you keep betraying yourself to keep the peace, you'll never know what it's like to live in peace with yourself. So stop waiting for permission. Stop apologizing for your standards. Stop explaining your worth. Start showing up for you the way you always wished others would. Because once you stop betraying yourself, you'll never settle for anything less than what your soul truly deserves. You learn early on that being quiet is safer, that speaking up makes you a target, that saying what you really feel might get you labeled as dramatic, difficult, angry, or too much. So little by little you start to silence yourself. You hold back in conversations. You smile when you're uncomfortable. You nod when you want to scream. You agree when everything in your body is saying no. And eventually you start forgetting what your voice even sounds like. But here's the truth: silencing yourself doesn't protect you, it erases you. Every time you bite your tongue when you should be speaking truth, a piece of you fades. Every time you stay quiet to keep the peace, you start a war inside yourself, and it's not noble. It's not humble. It's not strong. It's survival rooted in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of confrontation, fear of being misunderstood. But the more you stay quiet, the louder the regret becomes. You can only hold your truth in for so long before it starts to eat at you. Your body feels it. The tension in your shoulders, the tightness in your chest, the lump in your throat when you don't say what needs to be said. It's not just emotional, it's physical. It builds, it lingers, and it starts affecting how you see yourself. You start questioning your worth. You start wondering if your thoughts even matter, if your feelings are valid, if you're just too sensitive. And that's the damage silence does. It convinces you that you don't matter. But you do. Your voice does. Your truth does. What you feel, what you've been through, what you carry, it all matters. And the world needs more people who are willing to speak from that place of honesty. Because when you speak, you don't just free yourself, you give others permission to do the same. You become a mirror, a reminder, a ripple. Your words might be the thing that helps someone else find their own. And that's the part you never see. How much your silence could be costing the people around you too. It's not your job to be palatable, to make everyone comfortable, to shrink yourself into something digestible. You were not born to blend in. You were born to be fully, boldly, loudly if that's your nature, quietly but powerfully if that's your vibe, but never invisibly, never at the expense of your own truth. Because when you silence yourself long enough, it becomes a habit. And then one day you wake up and realize you've built a life that doesn't even feel like yours. People might not like it. When you start using your voice again, that's okay. Let them adjust. You're not here to be universally liked. You're here to be real. And realness requires truth. It requires boundaries. It requires calling things out, standing up, and sometimes walking away. That's not weakness. That's not being difficult. That's called honoring yourself. And if someone can't handle the sound of your truth, they were only ever comfortable with the silence of your compliance. You don't have to scream to be powerful. You just have to stop staying silent when something in you knows it's time to speak. Trust that. Honor that. Your voice is not a liability, it's a gift. And using it is how you start to reclaim all the parts of you that silence stole. Speak your fears. Speak your needs. Speak your boundaries. Speak your joy. Speak your rage. Speak your love. Speak your damn truth even if your voice shakes. Especially if your voice shakes. You were never meant to be quiet in the face of injustice. You were never meant to shrink so others could stretch. You were never meant to hold your breath in rooms where you should be breathing freely. You were meant to speak, to stand, to take up space. Your voice is your power. And silencing yourself serves no one, not even the ones you're trying to protect, because you can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't be fully present in a world where your truth is always buried. So here's the truth, raw and unapologetic. Fuck what they think, seriously. Because their opinions don't pay your bills. They don't carry your pain. They didn't fight your battles. And they sure as hell won't live with your regrets. You've got one life, one shot. And if you spend it bending, breaking, and betraying yourself to make everyone else comfortable, you'll die with your voice still stuck in your throat. So speak, move, create, be loud, be soft, be fierce, be you fully, wildly, freely, because the world doesn't need another copy. It needs you in your rawest, truest form. No apologies, and definitely no silence.